Hello, everyone. My name is Maureen, and I'm joining you from my home in Boulder, Colorado. And I just want to say it's really nice to have the opportunity to be with you again. I mean, this is a world meditation where everyone from lots of people from around the world are joining together to share our practice and stillness together. So, on that note, I would like for us to take a moment to be still and just kind of gather our stillness and set the tone for the meditation. So let's just have a moment of stillness and surround and protect ourselves with the love and the grace of God. Nasinavari Karam. Okay, I would like to start by sharing one of my steps. The world is in quite a predicament these days, and lots of conflict around. So I wanted to share a step in the Steps Continuation Training, which is this book right here. And it's a step on conflict, step 23. Today, I will use conflict to deepen my experience of knowledge. Use conflict today to remind yourself that there is only knowledge and the need for knowledge. Using this approach gives you a way to see beyond the complexities that confuse people at the outset. This will enable you to see into the deeper nature of the human predicament and your own predicament. Because the world is emerging into the greater community, you need these great capabilities. This is not merely for those who are gifted and wise. It is not an option. It is essential for the continuance of humanity and for the freedom of humanity. Developing these greater capabilities then becomes essential rather than optional. They are primary to life. With this understanding, you will be able to see that they are at the forefront of your own personal priorities, rather than something you easily forget or that you have to be reminded of as you go along. You are sent to serve the world. To do this, you must recognize conflict, but you must approach it in a certain way, or you cannot be a force for resolution. For conflict will draw you in and will overwhelm you, and you will not be able to understand it. You will give your power away to it. You will give your awareness away to it. It will overwhelm you, and you will be lost to it. See this around you. The evidence is everywhere. See how, even today, you are captivated by things that upset or disturb you to the point where you cannot see, you cannot know, and you cannot retrieve yourself back to a position of discernment. In your practice in stillness today, you can see this. Learning how to clear your mind and to quiet your mind can sometimes seem to be a great effort because the captivation has already occurred. Somehow you got swept downstream, and now you have to go downstream and find yourself and pull yourself out of the water because you got washed away. And though the current may be strong, you must pull yourself ashore. Practice this in your hourly practice and consider this today. So when I was reading this step, I saw it says, wait a minute, you must approach it, meaning conflict, in a certain way, or you cannot be a force for resolution. So I thought to myself, what does that mean? What is the certain way that they're talking about? So I remembered that in Wisdom 2, this is my beat up Wisdom 2, which I love. It's my favorite book. And there is a chapter in here called Resolve Conflict. And well, maybe it's not called, maybe it's just called conflict, but that's what the link says. Anyway, Kelvin is going to put the link in for you. And I wanted to read you some of the conflict quotes, not the whole thing, but just some of the random ones within that revelation that I found pertinent to at least what's going on in my life. And this conflict revelation was received by Marshall on May 14th, 1993 in Boulder. So here we are. This is the world that you have come to serve. Why do you think it is supposed to be as wonderful as your ancient home? It can become more wonderful through your contribution. But as it stands today, and as it will stand tomorrow, it is a place full of conflict. That's the truth. It is a place where people believe they are alone and compete with one another for any recognized satisfaction and benefit. Everyone was sent to the world to give something to the world so that the world could be a better place as a result of their participation. Many people never realize this and never find this in their lives, and tragedy occurs as a result. This tragedy exists everywhere. To begin to resolve conflict, the first step is awareness and acceptance. Until this occurs, there is nowhere to go. There's nothing to improve. Many people are not even at this starting point. They have great difficulty accepting the conflict within their own lives and their immediate circumstances. Tell the truth about this. Do not embellish it. Do not diminish it. Simply tell the truth about it. If things are not right, they are not right. If things do not work, they do not work. If people are not productive, they are not productive. If people do not get along, they do not get along. If you are not at peace, you are not at peace. That has to be your starting point. So there's one way to approach it. Perhaps you think that your contribution could not possibly make a difference, but I assure you that it will make a difference, because all that you give will continue to be given by those who receive your gift. And your gifts will continue to resonate through the minds everywhere in the mental environment. Who are you to say where the limits of this exist? Every time knowledge is strengthened in one person, it is strengthened in everyone. Every time knowledge is strengthened in one, Every time a great act is done selflessly, it strengthens the possibility of good for everyone, even for those people who have no idea what has occurred. Amazing. The value of conflict is that it calls to you to do something. The value of conflict within yourself is that it tells you that you must do something. The value of doing something is that you realize your value. Value must be earned in the world. This is true. Meaning must be earned. When you go home to your spiritual family, you will have all the value and the meaning you could possibly want. But while you are here, you are on assignment to work and to bond with others in work. Therefore, work is the nature of fulfillment in the world. By work, we do not simply mean going to a job every day, for there are things you must work on in your own life, as we have mentioned before, to resolve conflict and minimize the effects of conflict. They will make the world more free of conflict. In order for you to experience knowledge, the greater mind within you, to follow its expression and to apply its wisdom, you must become responsive to it. This is another thing. And you do not try to use it, limit it, or manipulate it for your own personal gains. You bring your conflict to knowledge by learning to establish a relationship with knowledge. But knowledge itself is not in conflict. It is accurate to say that humanity has advanced through the efforts of a very small percentage of the population. This percentage must grow for humanity to be able to meet the great and global challenges that face humanity, problems that have been created here, and problems in the greater community as well. Even the greater community is a place of conflict. There is no escaping conflict. You are here to work on conflict. Conflict provides the need and the impetus to work. Now, if you are paying attention to what I'm telling you, you will begin to wonder how people can sit around asking themselves, what is my purpose in life? I don't know what to do. What do I really want to do with my life? Can you begin to see the problem here? The problem is that people are not responsive to the inner need or to the outer need. They feel at a loss and they are wondering about it, but they are not responding to the very things that can lead them to the path of resolution. Knowledge will continue to be latent within you until you begin to understand its nature and adjust yourself to it. It is here to lead you and to guide you, to prepare you, to enable you to do all these things that you are meant to do in the world. How can it follow you in this case? Must you not learn to follow it? It is the leader. But even to follow it, you must learn what it is. And you must learn what your responsibilities are and how they can be applied, where they need to be applied, and so forth. You cannot relegate your own responsibilities to knowledge. For knowledge will require you to claim them and to apply them in a manner that is far more complete than anything you have ever done before. Here you become stronger with knowledge and not weaker. You become a leader and not simply a follower. By doing something bigger in the world, you become bigger. By doing less in the world, you become less. If you minimize conflict in the world and in yourself, conflict is minimized. If you avoid conflict in yourself and in the world, conflict grows. This can be easily seen, but it is a great challenge to apply. This will require courage, perseverance, rededication, and the presence of knowledge to prompt you onward. So those quotes gave me a clearer idea of what the step was talking about, is how to approach it in a certain way. So with those in mind, it's time for us to meditate. And I would like you to take the time to either read your own step or think about what I've presented. And we will spend 30 minutes in meditation together, and I'll see you on the other side. Nasi Navarikoro. While we're in this place of stillness, I'd like to share some passages about the messenger and the mission of the messenger from that revelation, the mission of the messenger, that Marshall received on April 10th, 2012, also in Boulder, Colorado. And the excerpts that I have extrapolated from this really show where this message came from and the magnitude behind this message and why Marshall is here. It's pretty impressive. So I will begin. The mission of the messenger is to bring the revelation into the world, to find its first respondents, to give them the opportunity to engage with the revelation and to come to terms with their own deeper nature and calling in life. That is why a great deal of the teaching has been given to pave the way for personal revelation for those who can receive it, adapt to it, and apply it in their lives successfully. Its demands are not great, except that it calls for a greater honesty than most people demonstrate at this moment. An honesty not simply to project one's ideas and beliefs upon the world, but to recognize the deeper current of one's life and in a state of humility and determination, choose to follow that. For that is the power and the presence of knowledge in the individual, which God's revelation reveals fully for the first time. Here, there are no heroes to worship. There is no judgment day. Here, there is no final test, which nearly everyone would fail anyway. For God knows better than this. God knows that without knowledge, people will falter and fail, make foolish mistakes, and give their lives over and succumb to dangerous and oppressive forces. Without the power of God in the individual to guide them, what else would they do but demonstrate their weakness and their confusion and the fact that their life is dominated by others? You see, the God of your world is the God of the entire greater community, the entire universe, a billion, billion, billion races and more in one galaxy, and amongst many galaxies and other dimensions in the unchanging creation beyond that. Wow. You are dealing with a God now of such greatness and expansion that your ideas and your beliefs pale and falter in the face of such magnificence. This God has placed knowledge within you to guide you and bless you and prepare you for a greater life, to take you out of your groveling and your pathetic engagements in self-pity, to restore honor and dignity to you, self-respect, graciousness, compassion, and humility. It is the mission of the messenger to teach you these things, to offer these things, to endure the resistance and the rejection of those who cannot see and will not know. This is the greater calling, you see. This is what restores the individual and gives the promise for greater life. This is what brings honor and dignity to all people, even the poorest of the poor who live in degradation. This is to establish a greater ethic of unity and cooperation in the face of a world in a state of plenty, perhaps. Wait a minute, of diminishing. Can you even imagine such a world, you who live in a state of plenty, perhaps? Can you imagine what this could do to the human family? It could destroy human civilization. Humanity's encounter with aggressive forces acting surreptitiously in the world could bring down and destroy human civilization. People do not know this. They do not think of this. Perhaps it is too much for them. They who have given all of their thoughts to little things, afraid of losing their privileges. They do not see the bigger picture, which will determine the outcome for everyone. But for those who can see and hear, the revelation will speak to them, and they will be the first to respond. And through them, the revelation will speak to those who have been more preoccupied and less able to see the great events coming over the horizon. One man cannot do this. It will take the engagement of many working in concert with the messenger. And then you have the problem of people who are self seeking and aggressive, who believe they are so very important in the universe, claiming to have their own version, acting out of concert with the messenger, trying to wed the new revelation with other teachings and or with their own ideas. This is the corruption that happens whenever anything is that is pure is brought into the world. And that is why the revelation is being given before the proclamation. That is why it is in writing. That is why you can hear the voice of revelation for the first time in human history. Such a voice that spoke to Jesus, the Buddha, and Mohammed. You can hear. Can you hear? You who listen to so many other things of little value, can you hear these words? Even if you are doubtful and suspicious, can you hear the message and the revelation? It is as plain as day, without deception, without complexity, without commentary to cloud the stream and to pollute the atmosphere of revelation. The mission of the messenger is to establish God's revelation here sufficiently within his remaining years so that humanity can begin to prepare for a changing world and prepare for its engagement with the greater community itself. This will change your theology. This will change your understanding of God and how God works in the world. This will challenge your fundamental religious beliefs about what redemption means, because when you think of God and the greater community, it changes everything. What is heaven for a billion, billion, billion races and more? What is what is hell? When you know that God has put knowledge within you and you can never escape it, its blessing and its redemption. What is the one what is one's religious affiliation with the understanding that there are billions and billions of religions in the universe, either more or less connected to the reality of God's presence and power? Who can say when God will speak again? Who, without arrogance and ignorance, can say that God cannot speak again? Even God's messengers cannot say that. Even the angelic host cannot say that. So, what person can claim such authority to determine what God will do next? It is the epitome of arrogance and foolishness. The mission of the messenger will have to face all of these things. It will have to face intellectual arrogance. It will have to face outright blind rejection. It will have to face every form of accusation. This is towards the one who is bringing the greatest expression of God's love that has been received in 1400 years. This is directed at one whose life, though facing difficulty and imperfect, is nonetheless a demonstration of the revelation itself. And with that, now let's spend some time in gratitude for what Marshall has brought to the world and to us individually. And now, spend a few moments with someone in your life or in the world who needs to receive gratitude and strength as well. Send that to them. And know that they will receive it. Thank you for coming to the Tuesday World Meditation. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, and we'll see you next week.